Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Hawksy Fishing. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and let me know your thoughts on this video down below. I haven't done anything like this before and I'd love to hear if it's the sort of thing you want to see or if you'd like to see something else as far as tips and tricks are concerned while we can't get out fishing. Today is all about casting accuracy with spinning gear. So first thing I'll say is you have to practice. A lot of guys think you can just go out there and cast and you'll get the accuracy. It took me a lot of time practicing both on the water and in parks or at home to get that accuracy. When you're in open water, try and cast the target still. It's very tempting just to try and punch out your longest cast you possibly can and not really pay attention to where it's going. But if you pick little targets, little things floating on the water, ripples, waves, anything like that, even weed beds, you can really try and hone in your casting accuracy at a time that you otherwise wouldn't be. And it's a great time as well because there's no consequences for getting it wrong. If you're fishing the snags and you're using that as your practice, it's great. You get nice little targets, but you screw it up and you either miss fish or worse still, lose expensive lures. So that's the first thing I'd say is just pick targets everywhere you're fishing. It'll really help and it'll act as practice while you're out there on the water. Anyway, now on to what to practice and what to put in place when you're out there practicing. First thing to do, pick out your outfit you want to use. I've got here is a 2 to 4 kilo rod with a 2500 size reel, and then work out how heavy you want to cast. I'd recommend starting up near the upper end of your cast weight. So 2 to 4, I've gone with a 1/8 of an ounce jig head and a soft plastic on that. Main reason for that is it allows your plastic to do, or the weight of your jig head to load the rod up, and it's much easier. You can focus on controlling your casting stroke a lot more rather than trying to send out something that's a little bit on the light side. The other thing is make sure you rig it up so that you can't get hooked. I've just jammed that plastic on there, basically so no matter what happens, it's not hooking into the ground in front of me or around me, and it's not going to hook into me if I somehow screw up. Second thing to do, find somewhere to do it. I've got a nice little area in my yard here. If you've got a backyard, it's a great time to be using those. At the minute, with everything going on, I'm not sure what the go is with parks are, but usually when parks are quiet, that's also another great place to practice your casting. First tip is about how you hold your line here. Most people will be accustomed to holding the line with their index finger on the line, just like this, or something similar to this. This allows you to control when your line gets released essentially. Let it go like that, your lure falls to the ground. However, what I do to give me a bit of extra control is rather than holding it here like that, put your finger on your spool lip there. So you can see there, my finger's on the spool lip pinching that line there. That allows me to let out a loop of line at a time for my lure to drop. It's great, gives you a little bit of extra control, but where it really comes into its own is when you're casting. So here, when you cast like this, index finger comes off, you lose control once you let go. Here, pop it on the spool, cast, and just feather it lightly and slow things down towards the end. It does two things. It really allows me to control how my lure hits the water. Really gentle presentation, especially for bream, that sort of thing. Having it land in the water nice and soft can get you a lot more fish. And the second thing is obviously the control about where it's going. You can control the distance by letting less line out. But you can also do things like steer which way it's going. If I put a cast out too far to my left, feather, rod out to the right like that, and it actually swings it in and brings it back towards that target I'm trying to hit. Same goes for the left obviously as well. So that's a really great thing to practice. It does take a bit of time. I think I spent about a month just casting in the front yard here, trying to get the hang of doing it, but once I nailed it, it really helped me hit some smaller targets with spinning gear. So the next thing I wanted to show you was a few different cast styles. So you obviously got the overhead cast that everyone's familiar with, but then little things like if you're just doing a short cast, being able to just use a little pitch here. So you start lure about where your reel sits, hold it down, rod tip down, let it swing, and do it like that. Much more controlled, can allow you to hit much smaller targets, greater accuracy. The only downside is it is a bit limited on the distance it can go because there's not as much energy in there. The other type of cast that I use a lot for accuracy, particularly if I'm casting to an edge, where I'm not so worried about direction, but length really matters. If I put it too long, it's up on the bank and it's no good to me. Casting down through my side like this here, coming up around, using that to load up the rod and then letting go. The reason I like this is my lure travels down nice and low, and I can get a really good idea of how far it's going to go. If it's going to go long when it's on an overhead cast, it can be a little tricky to judge sometimes, but when your lure's only a foot or two above the ground or the water, you can really tell if it's going to push long into that bank or into that edge that you're trying to hit. So it allows you to sort of watch it and guide it and really control the length a lot easier. You do lose a little bit of your directional control, but when you're casting to an edge like that and everything's a little more uniform, say it's a rock bar, snaggy edge without any obvious target you're looking to hit, that's where that comes in really handy. The third cast I'm going to show you here is one that's not typically used, but it's one that, particularly if you're someone who does a lot of that small stream trout fishing, anywhere where you're really limited for space around you, it's really useful to have. It's just across your body here. It seems like a bit of an awkward cast to do at first, and it does take a little bit more practice, but if you get it right, it can allow you to cast in places where you otherwise wouldn't. If I have trees all along my right side, overhead branches and that sort of thing, I've only got a little pocket to cast in. Just doing it across your body like that there lets you get a nice low cast out up that river and still get that little bit of accuracy because you've practiced it. That's a really useful one in those tight spaces. If you're someone who's fishing off a boat, fishing off a kayak predominantly, I'd put a little bit of time into it, but I wouldn't stress too much. You can always just turn around and use your favoured side across your, rather than casting across your body. The next cast is another that's really for those tighter streams and that sort of thing. It's just your bow and arrow cast. So again, same as a pitch, get your lure so it's sitting around where your reel is. But this time, instead of using your rod and swinging it through to give it the momentum, grab here, make sure you're grabbing behind the hook. So you can see on this one here, I'm grabbing it on the shank there or on the bend. That means that when I let go, it's not going to get me. Pull down, you can either do it underneath like this, which is how I usually do it, keeps it nice and low to the water, or over the top. You're looking to load your rod up, use that energy again, and then just let go and send it out. Really great again for those tight places where you don't have the room to move your rod around too much, and it can get it out a bit further than just a regular pitch. Alright guys, that finished up the tips and tricks for cast accuracy with spin gear. Get out there, practice them, get your casting accuracy a bit better and catch more fish. It's easy as that. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below, let me know what you thought. If you've got any other little tips and tricks for casting, chuck them in there too, and I'll catch you next time.